Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. We're on the test server, and today we're looking at 5 new champions. I think it's 5 that are coming to raid, obviously including the new fusion and the fusion epic. They're going to be collecting with fragments, and they look potentially quite decent, the epic, for faction wars hard. So we will see. So let's dive in. Let's take a look. By the way, I will have a showcase. In fact, here he is. Here he is. Lysanthir Beastbane. I will have a showcase for him going out maybe about an hour after this video. So stay tuned. It will be out very, very soon. But here we go. We can see his base stats. He's got very solid defense, solid speed, crit damage. He's a damage dealer, so it's the damage you'd expect. Good HP as well. So yeah, he's looking tanky with decent damage, a bit of base accuracy. They're good. It's sort of what a little bit better than I would expect, actually. That defense is quite high, so it's a little better than I'd expect on the base stats. That's him. He looks cool in game. We jump over to Lizardman next, and we've got a new legendary, Kerin the Harvester. Oh, my actual name is Kevin. This is almost me. Is this me in game, Kevin the Harvester? Does it look like me? Oh, that looks like me when I eat too much food. Oh, I'm so full. Oh, why did I eat all those Easter eggs? That's me at Easter. Why did I eat the whole Easter egg in one go? I feel sick. This was a terrible idea. Let's do it again tomorrow. So he's a support legendary, magic affinity for lizards, 109 base speed, pretty darn high, good health, good defense, yeah, great speed, etc. He's got accuracy in arena aura, so looks like he's going to be set up to be an arena champion. Let's take a look. Biting infestation. Attacks all enemies, has a 50 goes to 75% chance of placing decreased speed for 2 turns, deals 5% of each enemy's turn meter, deals 10% turn meter instead if they're under decreased speed. That's cool for some wave control stuff, like for faction wars hard. That's going to be insanely good. AoE decrease speed with turn meter steal. Just like if you're fighting 5 enemies, you steal 10% of their turn meter each. It's a decent chunk off each of them. It's noticeable, but it's a huge chunk of turn meter for you. That's a lot against 4 enemies in arena. You know, let's say you're stealing 20% to 30% on average. It's still pretty good turn meter boost for him. AoE decrease speed on an A1 is not what you would really think of an arena move, mind you, but let's see. Fresh Master, his A2, 3-turn cooldown when booked. Attacks one enemy, puts all the target skills on cooldown. 75 going to 100% chance to decrease the turn meters of all enemies under sleep by 15%. And a 100% chance when booked of decreasing turn meters of enemies without sleep by 30% instead. That's interesting. So, single target, putting skills fully on cooldown. Very, very nice. It's a really big turn meter pushback. That's one of the biggest ones if they're not under sleep. Now, obviously, turn meter pushback, you got to be careful of Marius. That's dangerous for sure. He'll start counterattacking with his A1. And this turn meter steal on his A1 is going to trigger Marius counterattacks as well. So this guy's going to have a massive problem against Marius. Probably only pickable if you have picked Marius. Or obviously for Tag Arena and Siege when they don't have Marius as well. But Sleep Stingers is A3, 4-turn cooldown when booked, attacks all enemies, 75 100% chance when booked of placing sleep on all enemies for 1 turn, ignores block debuffs, ooh, and then grants an extra turn. Oh, that's kind of cool. Okay. Okay, cool. So let's see his passive first, and then we'll break down his kit. Weed Out. So the passive is always on. Whenever an enemy attempts to increase their turn meter, decrease the value of that turn meter fill effect by 25%. There's multiple champs on the team. Okay. So I guess just enemy turn meter fill effects are 25% less effective. Again, English is failing us here. Maybe other languages will be better. Because you could read this as when an enemy attempts to increase their own turn meter. It doesn't say that. So I'm guessing not. I'm guessing it literally is any enemy turn meter fill effects are just 25% worse, which is pretty funky, actually. That could be kind of cool as like a sort of cut-in champion, right? Put him in Supersonic. He could come at like an enemy Sifi. Her turn meter already kind of sucks. Now the turn meter boost really gonna suck. And he could cut in and sleep them when they're under block debuffs. That could be interesting. He's an active effect. The active has a 1-turn cooldown, and he seems like he'll cycle through his skills very quickly, his turns quickly. So this will be up a lot. Whenever a sleep debuff is removed or expires on a target, instantly activates the Threshmaster skill on that target. Does not work if a sleep debuff is removed by damage. Okay. And again, you don't stack multiples of champion. That's interesting. Oh, wow. And Threshmaster is a single target lockout. Okay. So yeah, you put this champ in, maybe like high accuracy supersonic. The enemy team buffs up. So long as they're not protected by Stone Skin, he comes in and AoE sleeps them. Now he can weak hit, which is a problem. He can weak hit. But if he doesn't weak hit, AoE sleep, it ignores block debuff, so it will go on. It will be blocked by Stone Skin and Intercept, and that, I think, is it. But yeah, then he gets an extra turn, and then he can go put someone's skill on cooldown and push everyone else's turn meter back. And presumably, the person whose skill he puts on cooldown, he'll push their turn meter back by 30%. And then whenever anyone on their team wakes up, he'll go in and he'll, at least once, he'll increase their skill. He'll do this for free. He'll then smack the next person who wakes up, put their skills on cooldown, and push everyone else's turn meters back again. That's quite fun. Yeah, this guy seems really funky. He's going to be absolutely monstrously good for Faction Wars Hard. Some niche use in Arena. Like I said, he seems like he's really going to struggle against Marius, but other than that, he could be pretty good. Just more so for manual play. Obviously, Sleep is really awkward with general play, but yeah, AoE, I love the ignore block debuffs. That's what makes his kit work. And then, yeah, that passive, just locking people out of their cooldowns, putting them fully on cooldown, doing loads of turn meter pushback and stealing. This guy could be like a sort of Arman's 2.0 type champion. Not quite on that level, but, you know, similar sort of vibe of just crowd control monster. Control monster. Very cool. Okay, he's a fun one. I actually quite like him. Kevin, the lizard. Yes. After my namesake, I'm proud. Okay, here we go. We've got Yuzan the Marooned. Where has he been marooned? How did it happen? Is he a seafaring rhino to be marooned? Not usually renowned for being too keen on boats, I would think. But yeah, Yuzan, he's the epic. Gonna be the epic almost definitely for this fusion. Cool. He or she? I don't know. Can we see under the skirt? Let's not. Let's keep it PG. HP, epic for the Skinwalkers. Void affinity as well. Slow, but good HP and high resist. That's sort of it. Got 40 resist in all battles. Aura. A1, Hammerhorn. Attacks one enemy. Transfers a random debuff from this champ to the target and heals this champ by 10% of their max HP. A2, Thundering Charge. 4 goes to a 3-turn cooldown. Attacks all enemies. Goes to 100% chance to remove 2 random buffs from all enemies. And heals this champ by 10% max HP for each buff removed by this skill. Pretty good. Let's see the A3. Good Luck Charm. 4-turn cooldown when booked. Removes 1 random debuff from all allies. Heals all allies by 20% of this champ's max HP, and puts block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns. And the passive, Kind Soul, whenever this champion heals themselves using a skill, also heals all allies by 20% of any surplus heal. I think this champ actually looks great for Faction Wars. Definitely a Faction War hard champ. I mean, you look at Skinwalkers, their epics are pretty dodgy, and you've got Steel Skull, they're okay, but in terms of survivability, this faction is exceptionally lacking. Even in terms of legendaries, Nick Track is good. Bambus is okay. Hackhorn is very good, but you're quite lacking in healers and protectors to a fairly large degree. You've got so much damage, like just Wukong and Marius. Like damage is done. You're done. You've got damage for this faction. No stress. Job done. It's sort of surviving and controlling and whatnot is the bigger question. I think Yuzan fits in pretty well. Potentially could build him as a damage dealer. Right, and priority on this. So a damage dealer who's stripping buffs, giving themselves tons of healing and healing your team, and then a bit of a cleanse with a big heal and block debuffs is a great kit. Alternatively, don't build them for damage. Put them like in a provoke set. That could work. Put them in a provoke set, run them fast with lots of HP, or put them in a shield set with lots of HP, and they can be a cleanser, a healer, who is also, again, removing buffs and healing your team. Yeah, could be really good as well. So I think Yuzan actually one to watch out for. If you are not going to go for the fusion, I would definitely grab one copy. Yuzan could be very helpful for Faction Wars. I think especially if you have Hackhorn Smash Lord, you might be fine. If you don't have Hackhorn, I would try to get this epic. And if you're going for the fusion, I try to probably get an extra copy of this epic, because there's relatively, is that the only? Loriaka also gives you block debuffs as well. But yeah, Hackhorn, Loriaka, Bambus to an extent. You're a little limited. I think they're quite good epic, so it's definitely an epic worth considering. And then, everything else is high elves, or not high elves, is these guys. Okay. Sorry, so we only have... No, we do have, because we skipped over the fusion. Okay, so first up, we've got Bladechorister Caldor. I'm actually not sure how to say that. Someone who sings in a choir, I presume. Bladechorister Caldor. He's the faction unity for Sylvan Watchers. This guy looks sick. I already looked at his kit a little bit, and it's crazy. I took a look at this one, and it is bonkers. We have to read the whole thing for it to make sense. In fact, let's look at the faction unity stuff first. So he has a 25% crit rate in all battles aura, 15% speed for Sylvan. These crit rate auras are they probably make the most sense on faction unity, where you might build a very specific dedicated team. But it's certainly interesting. Okay, let's take a look at his passive then. Sylvan Symphony ignores 15% defense when attacking while under Veil or Perfect Veil. He receives 30% less damage from enemies when not under Veil or Perfect Veil. He is fairly squishy, very high damage, like 1663 attack is very high. Good speed. He's squishy though, so very survivable actually thanks to this when he doesn't have Veil, and when he does have Veil, he's hitting harder. This is where it goes crazy. Sylvan Watchers, look at all this continuous heal, guys. One faction ally. Each continuous heal buff on this champ increases their crit rate by 20%. Oh my god, this is gonna be a bonkers champion. Ridiculous. So you build him with no crit rate, but you need loads of continuous heals, and use his aura and loads of continuous heals. It's crazy. 2 faction allies. Each time a continuous heal buff activates on this champ, fills their turn meter by 8%. 3 faction allies. Each time a continuous heal buff activates on this champion or an ally, increase this champion's damage by 5% up to 150%. Okay, so needless to say, if you're running Sylvans, you need to be running a ton of continuous healing with this guy. It's not optional. He's going to do over double damage, get way more turn meter, and not need to build crit rate, potentially. Like, it's nuts. His A3, Rhythms Crescendo, 4 turn. That books to a 3-turn cooldown. That has 35% damage from books, by the way. Attacks one enemy. Before attacking, 100% chance of removing all buffs from the target and putting decreased defense and weaken on the target for 2 turns. Ignores 20% resist for each continuous heal buff on this champion. Okay? So he doesn't need accuracy. He doesn't need accuracy if you've got 5 continuous heals. He ignores all their resistance. I mean, hell, even like 3 or 4 continuous heals is probably plenty. Nobody's resisting him. So buff strip, decreased defense weaken, single target. They basically can't resist it. And it is an enemy max HP scaling hit as well. So this is going to destroy bosses. For single target bosses, it's only a single hit. So it will hit the enemy max HP cap. It'll be massive. It scales on attack as well. It's probably going to nuke anyone. And it is decreased defense weaken. Now, the faction unity stuff. 1 faction ally. Removes all buffs from all enemies if the initial target is killed. Buff removal cannot be resisted. 2 faction allies. Ignores 5% defense for each poison on the enemy. And for each continuous heal buff on this champion. Whoa. Okay, again, really awkward to set up a King Galkabar. Hello. But this is crazy. 3 faction allies. If the initial target is under poison debuff, also attacks all other enemies. Damage dealt is proportional to the initial target's max HP and how many poison debuffs are on them. So this is entirely a max HP hit. So if the initial target is poisoned, he does an AoE enemy max HP hit, which scales off enemy max HP and the number of poison debuffs on them. If the initial target is a boss or a minion, the damage dealt is equal to 10% max HP. So he does a 10% max HP hit. I mean, this should hit cap, no problem. No problem. Okay, so he's got... It's only a single hit, mind you. So that's my main concern. It's only a single hit. And yeah, for Hydra, let's say, you could do an AoE max HP hit. But you have to have poisons out. Half of them are immune to poison. A bit awkward. Interesting, though. Right, his A2, Orchestra of War. This move is crazy as well. 5-turn cooldown, goes to a 3-turn. Select a target. If a target's an enemy, decrease duration of all buffs on all enemies by 1 turn. Puts a 5% poison debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. And an additional 5% poison for 2 turns for each continuous heal buff on this champion. Oh my god, bro. These debuffs cannot be resisted, then instantly activates all poison debuffs on all enemies. Now, legit, if you had a big Plus lethal dose blessing, which makes your poisons do more damage. If you get enough continuous heals on this guy, he could just one-shot an enemy team. Just stack him up with poisons and blow him up and just kill them. In arena. If the target is an ally, increases duration of all buffs on all allies by 1 turn, instantly activates all continuous heal buffs on all allies, places Perfect Veil on this champ for 2 turns, places a continuous heal buff on this champ for 2 turns, and another continuous heal buff for each alive ally for 2 turns. So again, in Hydra, he can self-buff with 6. He can give himself 6 continuous heal buffs. Finally, fills this champion's turn meter by 15% for each buff or debuff placed by this skill. That's spicy. So he can come in. Let's see his A1 as well. Dagger Song is an AoE A1 with a 15 goes to 25% chance to stun for a turn. Ignores 20% resist for every continuous heal on this champion. AoE A1. What a weird champion. Now, like, to touch on it quickly, Podrick with his ally attack does give you a continuous heal. That's not bad. I think Lady of Erath, does she give you? She gives you a continuous heal and decreases your cooldown. So that's strong. Who else does? I don't think Ruark does. Oella, of course, gives you a continuous heals with her passive. It's a bit awkward that, though, perhaps. Galkabar is a big one. Galkabar gives you continuous heals for every debuff he removes. Galkabar also turns enemy buffs into poisons. Elva obviously pumps out continuous heal on her A1, and so on. So this is interesting for sure. Nell, by the way, pumps out a lot of poisons to go with this guy as well. There's some interesting stuff there. I kind of like the idea of Sylvans having a bit of a poison emphasis in their faction. There's ways to do it. But in theory, so you come in arena, bam, you target the enemy, decrease all their buffs. So if they've got 1 turn Stone Skin, it's still a 50-50, but you could remove all the Stone Skin. If you've given him some continuous heals first with like a Senna or something, you put continuous heals, poisons out on everybody, blow them up, and then you get a bunch of turn meter, and then go in with his A3. I guess, you'd need the 3 faction. Yeah. If you got a full Sylvan team, you come in, reduce all their buffs, poisons on everyone, blow them up, basically give him an instant turn. Then he comes in, and he does a massive single target nuke, and then he hits everybody else with this enemy max HP nuke as well, with the poisons. And he ignores defense. Loads of defense. It's kind of a crazy 1-2 combo, but really awkward, really weird to set up. Like block debuffs, protected block debuffs, Stone Skin, any of that can mess him up. He can also self-buff, which is really funky. Just heal your whole team, gives himself Perfect Veil and a ton of continuous heals and like an instant turn. And then he's set up with a bunch of continuous heals. So this will definitely ignore resistance, and he will still ignore a ton of defense. And again, he's going to get loads of turn meter as well. The continuous heals will stack his damage. This guy, there's a ton of gameplay to him. Will he be good? I don't know. Like, maybe he'll suck. He's a very complicated champion to play with. There's no question. He's got very specific synergies with poison and continuous heal champs and Sylvan Watchers. But he could be really strong, maybe. And he's certainly going to be a ton of fun. He'll be a freaking monster, of course, for Faction Wars, no doubt. He will literally just delete Faction Wars. It's going to be disgusting. But yeah. Bladechorister Caldor, he's pretty nuts. And then the final champ we've got is Aratheia Corpseflower. He looks super cool. Yeah, evil fairy, basically. I don't know if she's evil. She looks pretty evil. Yeah, pretty evil looking fairy. I like the design a lot. She is an attack legendary. Again, fairly okay defense, but terrible HP. Good, but not crazy attack. Crit damage. All right, cool. She has 30% attack in all battles. So her A1 Hex Bloom attacks one enemy, fills this champ's turn meter 10%, fills an additional 10% if the enemy's under Hex, will counterattack with this skill when hit by enemies under Hex. So potentially a Hydra champ right from the get-go with turn meter boosting. We'll see. Capricious Spite. 4 turn goes to a 3 turn. Attacks all enemies 2 times. Damage increased by 10% for each enemy under Hex. So again, that's like potentially 40% more damage in Arena or Hydra, 50% in probably Faction Wars, one assumes, and hard. Will ignore shield and strengthen. Also ignores block damage buffs on enemies under Hex. That's actually kind of... There's a few very strong block damage champs in Arena, like Odin, Siegfried, etc. If you can get a Hex on them, ignoring block damage is actually very good these days. Fills her turn meter by 30%. Fills an additional 20% for each enemy killed. Ooh, so double hit. That's spicy. I kind of like it. It looks like I see a Hex icon in her A3. Let's take a look. Mind Snare Cloud. 5-turn books to a 3-turn cooldown. Places. Increase accuracy on all allies for 2 turns. Has a books to 100% chance of placing Deathbrand debuff on a target enemy for 2 turns. And a 75 going to 100% chance of putting Hex on all enemies for 2 turns. Then fills her turn meter by 50%. An additional 10% turn meter fill for every debuff placed by this skill, and puts block damage on this champ for 1 turn. Woo, boy. Fang Lilac Frenzy, I suppose. Lilac, like a flower. Fang Lilac. If this champion kills 1 or more enemies in a battle, ignores 10% of any target's defense. Now, you cannot kill Hydra, but for Arena and Faction Wars, that sort of thing, that's cool. If she kills 2 or more enemies in a battle, she gets a shield buff equal to 40% of her max HP for 2 turns at the start of their own turn. I guess just every single turn. If she kills 3 or more enemies in a battle, each attack decreases the target's turn meter by 10% and it cannot be resisted. Oh god, Marius is just going to delete her. But, wow, okay, that's really fun. Okay, a fun Void Nuker. Interesting. So you come in. She doesn't need accuracy. None of her stuff is ignoring... Well, it's this move here. So you probably build her with a bit of accuracy, but she does give herself increased accuracy and gives her team increased accuracy too. It'd be unusual for her to be super fast. So a bit weird where you fit her in. Like, will your team actually benefit from increased accuracy or not? I don't know. Because usually in Nuker, it's hard to have them super fast. Interesting, though. But yeah, another champ that brings Deathbrand. 2nd champ after Queen of Hearts. And then an AoE Hex. She brings the AoE Hex herself and an increased accuracy to help place it. Be very nice for Hydra. You'll easily be able to provide Hex at low cost. And then she gets a ton of turn meter boost. And again, you know, for Hydra, you're getting 50% turn meter. 4 hexes, you're going to get an additional 40% for 90% total, and block damage to keep her alive for while it lasts. In Arena, you do this move, and, you know, if you don't place many debuffs, they've got block debuffs or stone skin or high resistance, whatever, you still get a ton of turn meter, and you get block damage, so she's hard to kill, and she's set up well, and then comes in with a big AoE, potentially, again, giving her loads of turn meter. She's got a lot of turn cycling. She potentially has so much turn meter boost in her kit. Absolute tons. She really wants Hex out there, though. So it's sort of the question in Arena. Can we actually be getting that Hex out there? If we can, she will be crazy. If she can't, she won't be. The combo very well with Mad Hatter as well, I would say. But again, you might be doubling up on the Hex too much. But yeah, for Hydra, she seems pretty darn strong. Yeah, it's just she's going to get loads of turn meter. I guess, I don't know. At the same time, her passive doesn't work for Hydra, does it? And her extra turn meter on A2 doesn't work. So maybe not. Seems a sort of Hex champion that's good for Hydra, but maybe better in Arena. Definitely Faction War should be nuts. But yeah, start ignoring defense. Start generating a big shield. Decreasing turn meter. I mean, she could really go crazy. Like, you know, this could be an attack nuker that survives for a long time. Kind of Rotus style, where she keeps giving herself a huge shield. She keeps counterattacking, boosting her turn meter, reducing your turn meter, big turn meter and block damage here, big turn meter here. She could potentially be getting tons of turns and be really difficult to kill. She's pretty fun. Yeah, pretty fun champion. Honestly, so there we go. I think Caldor, Aratheia, I don't know how good they're going to be, but I will say they both are very unique, and that's what I love to see. Very unique champion designs. Yeah, the Rhino seems like just a solid champion for Faction Wars. Obviously epic, so a bit of a budget pick, but could be well worth it for many players. Who else do we have? Oh yeah, we've got Kevin, the new lizard. Again, he seems quite fun and unique, bringing control based around sleep. Again, that's quite fun. And then finally, of course, we had the Fusion. Fusion, who's a fairly straightforward, I would think, defense damage dealer with a bit of spice, but not too much. But there you go. They are the new champions. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.